Can we just touch on the Bentley situation first?
Yes.
Just tell us what's disappointed you most about the whole affair.
I would say the frivolous challenge part of it, James. I think that's the only disappointment, really. Obviously, I know I'm going to get asked about this question, so probably important. We'll give you a bit of background. We at the start of the year, with the directives coming around, James, we understand the reasons why the game's got to change its look a little bit, and why in certain instances we got to look at techniques and behaviours. I don't think you'll find a coach or a player or an administrator in the game that is against that. We're wholly on board with it, which is why we're consistently taking advice from the referees, from Paul Cullen, and we've employed on a consultancy basis a former very experienced Grade 1 referee for that, and because we want to be as good as we possibly can from a discipline point of view. I thought, yeah, James got the tackle wrong. We've got no qualms with the send off. We got no qualms that he would receive a sanction at all. Probably important to mention, at the start of the season, after we'd had our meetings with with Paul Cullen, we said, look, we're not going to defend you. When we commit these acts, as a coach, I am not going to keep going to judiciaries and trying to defend you. We need to change our behaviours and some of our techniques. So when James Donaldson gets one on Boxing Day, Blake Austin, Brad White, we're not defending you. So you probably think, well, why are we defending a tackle like James's? And really, a couple of reasons were obviously the other tackles in the way they got graded within the game. I think that were important. We took into consideration a number of factors. First of all, we got advice, and not just from one person, from two people, and advice. I'm not going to name the names, but in any realm they would be considered experts about their respective gradings during this game. We looked at the tackles. So Ben Curry's tackle, listen, I don't want to throw Ben Curry under the bus either. He's a great guy. He's definitely not a dirty player, and he's a brilliant player. But in comparison with the two other gradings, we thought that Ben's got 4 seconds and 40 metres against a stationary guy. That guy is concussed and on an 11-day mandatory stand down. And he's not been great this week. And the challenge wasn't penalised, and obviously it was graded at a grade A. Ollie Holmes was graded at a B. So given that we felt that Gareth Widdop had lost his feet and were dipping, James was going at speed with force. We felt that on field and subsequently with Paul Cullen, the talk of a clenched fist, we didn't agree with that. We subsequently proved that, even though it wasn't on the charge sheet. We felt that James's arms were outstretched, not a swinging arm, which they agreed with us. The judiciary panel agreed that, conceded that James was absolutely going in to make a tackle. But obviously there were a reckless element to it. But we were challenging the severity of the grading, basically. So I think the fact that the respective outcomes of the tackles, he got sent off. We felt around the swinging arm. We felt around some mitigation again. And a lot of them, a couple of points they agreed with us, and a couple of points they completely disagreed with us. But I don't think that falls into the category of frivolous, of not having any serious purpose or value. I felt we had some very, very carefully considered points that were presented really well, some that they agreed with, some that they didn't. We had what we thought was expert feedback around all the challenges in the game. So we felt it was worthy of a challenge. We certainly weren't defending the send-off, and we certainly weren't defending the fact that he got sanctioned, merely the severity of it in comparison with the other tackles. Now, we're at a point where there's not many other tackles in the game, and rarely, James, are two tackles the same anyway. So, to get a like-for-like comparison is difficult, but I think we've got enough there to warrant questioning the challenge, because you get back into that situation that I guess what we don't want is not being able to challenge. The challenge has always been a good part of our judiciary, because if match reviews parameters are set by the RFL and the Laws Committee, pass it on to the RFL, who pass it on to the judiciary, whose parameters are set by the RFL and Laws Committee. I think if we get to a point that you guys ask me and I'm afraid to talk about it and not be transparent, and if we get to a point where we're not gonna perhaps challenge when we feel it's worthy of a challenge, because we'll get further sanctions, you're sort of heading towards a totalitarian system, which I know the game wouldn't want. We just don't want that position. So that's the only part of it that we are disappointed with. Is the frivolous challenge, and if it is a frivolous challenge, by all means sanction us. But we'll disagree. The RFL will disagree. We simply didn't think it were a frivolous challenge. We thought it was thought out, carefully considered. We put tackles against it and we took expert advice on it. We didn't just sit here and think, come on, let's try it on and let's try and get Bentos not guilty. Absolutely not. We respect the fact that we did have a fair hearing, but hugely disappointed, I guess, around that part of the process, just as we were disappointed with the process around Blake Austin the week before, when it took us 8 days to find out that he wasn't playing. The feedback we got then from the RFL was it doesn't disadvantage you in any way. We would argue it does disadvantage us. Whether it's heard on a Monday or a Thursday, to hear it the following Monday does disadvantage us, because it gives us less preparation time for some pretty major changes in this team. So there's a couple of bits around the process there. I think it's, again, important that I sort of point out, James, that we got terrific feedback from the referees this week. Having spoken to Dave Elliott, they were really happy with our team in the game. We conceded 4 penalties. The one from Matty Pryor was absolutely borderline on all counts when we look for feedback. But the penalties we did concede, Bentos red card and Brad yellow card, they're the bits for us that, I keep saying I'm not going to defend you on these. It's a case of right across the game, we've got to very quickly change some behaviours and techniques for the whole benefit of the sport, and we get that. But in terms of the way we managed ourselves, the feedback we got was that Cruz captained the team excellently. There were no whinging and whining from us players. We worked with the referee throughout. So I think there's a lot of positives that we can take out of that last week from that perspective. I think Chris Kendall's a good young referee. He's fit, he's professional, he takes his job really seriously. And there were a couple of bits within that game, in the context of the game, that were pretty major talking points. But I'll leave you with this, James. We feel that there were a couple of bits that we didn't do well enough at crucial times. And that is our first protocol. We will look at a couple of instances in that game that led to points that rests with us. We got to take the whistle out of the referee's mouth. As I say, we're using a consultant because we want to be as good as we possibly can during these times. I think that maybe covers off a lot of the talking points from last week, in which were around a football really that while we were hurting because of his defeat, I think it was a really positive round of football for the game, rugby league for the game, and we wouldn't want it overshadowing by what's probably been a couple of major talking points this week.
There is a human element to it as well, though, isn't there? How's James actually taken the news?
Yeah, bad. Yeah, we all did. We all did. I'm not, again, without wanting to repeat myself a bit here, we can accept if to say it's a grade 3 and it's staying at 3 games, but we felt we had enough grounds to challenge that decision based on the facts I've just given you, and we felt there were some areas of our challenge that was successful within that. So it's this privileged challenge part of it that is obviously disappointing. And as I say, we probably just don't want to get to a point where we think, well, we one, I can't talk about it to you guys, and two, we can't challenge it because you as I say, you wouldn't want an unregulated totalitarian system. I'm not saying we've got that, but you wouldn't want that for for the health of the sport, really. So yeah, I'm sure it'll all settle down in the fairness of time, mate.
Just on players, then you said Fusatu has not been great this week. What about Richie Myler? What's the prognosis on him?
Yeah, Richie's down in London seeing a specialist at this moment in time. It is likely that he'll have surgery. So just quite the length of time on that. We're unsure about until he actually has the surgery at this moment. So yeah, we'll wait and see what the outcome is down there at the moment, James. So he'll, obviously, he'll definitely miss this week, and he'll probably miss a number of weeks. Just how long, we're not quite sure yet.
I mean, how big a blow is that?
Well, it's always a blow to lose any player through injury. Richie's been very influential. It's probably offset by the fact I thought Jack Walker were great last week, and Jack's an exceptional young player with a terrific long career in front of him at our club. So it can sort of be offset a little bit by the fact that Jack's back, and obviously we got Blake back from a suspension this week. So despite losing Richie, we're still in a pretty healthy spot where spine's concerned.
On the field, then, what are you expecting at Wigan?
Hey, look, I've seen some changes in them already. I know they've had a change of coach. I've seen some real positive changes around them. They've had 2 pre-season game at Warrington. I thought some real positives out of them, and OKR, which is always a tough place to go. I think historically over the last number of years, have been a very, very tough defensive team. I think that's still the same, but I think they've taken some steps forward. I think the line speed is excellent. They're dipping the shoulders into tackles probably a little bit more than they have done, and a little bit more aggression on that over the last couple of seasons. I've seen some, a couple of really positive changes, what they've implemented in the defensive line. Their attack has come in for some criticism and the output of it over the last couple of years. And again, you can see there's a slight little shift in style there. And they've got some threats. Paddy Mago that's come into the team has got some footwork and a terrific offload. Fields is sniffing around all those little sort of bits, and he's finding his way to 3 men on the edge with some good execution plays. That's been really successful for them in their opening couple of games. So going to Central Park, you wouldn't expect anything other than an extremely tough challenge, but one that we're looking forward to too, James. We had a game where we had 12 men last week, and at times 11 men. So while we may have some changes to our team, we see some positives in that too. Some guys got overlooked last week, and there is a fresh energy injected into our team on a team what did work extremely hard last week.
So Blake Austin, a delayed debut for him. What are you expecting from him on Friday?
Which is his first game. He's done plenty of training with us, so to get him pulled away at round one, like we did, were a difficult one. But we want to encourage Blake to bring the best parts and qualities of his game. We think he offers us a great kicking game and a good alternate to Aidan. And we know that when he starts to run the ball, we found that as an opposition defence, it can get quite scary at times. So for Blake, it's important again that our forwards very much lay the platform so our halves can get on the front foot a little bit. Going to be interesting with the weather, James. There's all sorts of forecasts coming. I guess it's changing by the hour really. So I think it's important for us to be ready and prepared for whatever situation is thrown at us tomorrow. And if we have to be adaptable on weather conditions, be that wind or rain or snow, then I think we go in with a mindset that we're ready to adapt.
I was going to ask you about how tricky an opponent Storm Eunice might be. Just lastly from me, it could be a tricky night for the back three, couldn't it, when that ball goes up?
Yeah, it could be a tricky night for Wigan's back three, as well as Leeds'. Yeah.
Everyone's back three.
Yeah, it could be a tricky night for the kickers trying to gauge it, James. But we'll wait and see. You know, sometimes a wind will swirl. Sometimes it gives a team, you know, a major advantage. We've just trained out there, and it wasn't too bad. It's been coming and going a little bit, hasn't it? So, you know, the current forecasts, without want to try to predict it too much, is it shifted a bit more to the southeast, and it might die away before we get there at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. But I think we know, you know, we can always rely on the weather, can't we? So yeah, it could make it a different style of contest, but at the same time, it's one that we're ready for. We feel we're prepared for it, and whatever it will be, then we'll adapt to those conditions.
Can I just have a word on Reece Martin? Obviously, playing last week, it was a phenomenal effort for him to do that before going back home this week.
Yeah, it was, Drew. I think you can all imagine, you know, the shock and the trauma and the sheer upset of losing a parent. You know, he's in this country. His partner and little fella are back home in Australia. They did get to meet. He did get to meet his pop before he passed away, which I know Reece is eternally grateful that he's got some. You know, he's got some pictures of his little man and his father before he passed away. But yeah, an extremely emotional place for Reece to be in leading up to the game. We did give him the option about training and not training. It was very difficult for him to train on Wednesday. He tried to train, but in the morning, obviously, you know, he was fairly overcome. He got out and trained really well in the afternoon. I thought his performance were outstanding in the circumstances. The boys voted him the player of the match. You know, upon getting in the sheds after, where we addressed the team, we thanked him, and again, he was pretty overcome with emotion, and the boys got around him. But I feel that's something that down the line he'll appreciate, the strength and support that he got from his teammates and the club, and we're right behind him. You know, he's nipped off home to get things seen to, and again, we'll support him all the way. He'll go and do what he's got to do over there, and he'll get back and you know, have a good long season in front of him.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff.
You
mentioned Jack Walker before as well. Just how impressed were you with him last Saturday, and what does he need to do now just to kick on to that next level?
Well, it was good to get his first game out of the way, and it was probably good to get it out of the way with as much energy and involvements that he got. I thought he marshalled our defensive line really well. I thought that his supports were around the 30 mark for the game, which is Jack's forte, really, bringing energy and ball carry and tackle bust right around where the action is. We've got to keep working with him with our pivots. Obviously, it's probably common knowledge that we were going to go with Richie for round one, and it were a very, very late change given what happened with Blake. So he didn't get a lot of preparation time in towards that particular game. So we just got to keep working on what he does in good ball, because he's a different type of a threat to Richie, a good one. But we've got to keep working on that all-round game about being in the right place at the right time on the back of shifts and his skill execution. But that's something, you know, alongside Sean, he's working very hard on.
And moving on to Friday and Wigan, obviously they've got talented players across the park. Where do you see Wigan's main threat coming for Leeds on Friday night?
A couple of areas, couple of good areas, really. I think they've been really good on transition. I think they've been a real threat, given some of the speed that they've got in the team on breakaway tries. I've already sort of pointed out, I think they've made some really healthy changes to what the defensive line is doing, been a little bit more proactive in certain circumstances, and finding some style in the plays that is really fitting the personnel that they've got in certain positions at this moment in time. As we always know, going away there, they give you very little. You know, they're a tough team, and yeah, this early round two, we wouldn't expect anything, anything else other than a very strong physical encounter.
You'll be aware of Ollie Wilkes' comments this week.
Yes.
Is that something that you're prepared to share with us your thoughts on it?
Yeah,
Is
I've
it a
coached
problem
Ollie.
again?
I coached him at Wakefield. Yeah, I'll be really honest. I'll be really honest. I think a couple of things. My first thoughts were about Ollie, and that I hope he's all right. For what's prompted him to come out with this, and where he's at. He's not a guy I've had contact with, and I think last time I saw him was when he was at Workington, and we played him at home that night. So last time I sort of had a quick chat to him. That I hope personally, and the space that he's in, he's okay. That were absolutely my first thought. My second thought is I don't agree, completely disagree, and I've coached for 20 odd years. That drugs is a widespread problem in our game. Not at all. It might be, and I might not know about it, Ian. I can certainly talk about my club with great confidence now, and say that's not the case. And I think I can go back to, and I've coached Ollie too. I can go back to, all the clubs I've been at really, and pretty much say that I do not think that it is a widespread issue. I think any sport within the world, you will always find the odd individual that may not make the best choices. We've seen at the moment with the ice skating, not that I know too much about that. But whichever sport you go to in, you may well find elements of this, but I would say they're in very, very minor pockets rather than it being widespread within our sport. So that's not something that I would particularly lose sleep about. I would say the timing of it, after I think what were a very, very positive opening round, is disappointing. I've spent 60% of my press conference talking about the judiciary and referees and the drugs issue, when actually we had a wonderful opening round. As difficult as it was to lose the game for me and for our club, I thought the sport emerged with a lot of credit and a lot of excitement after last week. So the timing of it is very disappointing. The motive behind it, I'm not real sure. I would hope Ollie, on a personal front, is okay. I hope he's all right within himself and his life. But I don't think, as a sport, everything around the sport, the procedures, the drug testing, the information that our guys get from high performance people and what we're surrounded by, I don't think it's an issue.